So I'm used to doing the Instagram live things, but not two at once. It's bizarre.
It's really bizarre. For everyone out there, we've got our phones for Instagram and we've got StreamYard for YouTube and Facebook. So we're so glad to be coming out at you. So today, with my conversations with women in music, I have an absolute epic titan in music, Catherine Marks. Catherine Marks is a Melbourne-born, London-based, award-winning producer, mixer and engineer. With over 15 years in the industry, Catherine won MPG Breakthrough Producer of the Year in 2016, MPG Producer of the Year in 2018, and Heavy Music Awards Producer of the Year in 2020. Catherine produced and mixed Wolf Alice Grammy-nominated Moaning Lisa Smile, and mixed Grammy Award-winning album Mass Education by St. Vincent, and has produced and mixed 5 top 10 UK albums. So, Catherine, you're such a hero. I don't know if you know what a hero you are to so many people in music. Do you know this?
No, I don't. It always, it's very flattering.
Well, it's true. I mean, I've been following your work for years, and I'm in such admiration, not only for your creative vision, but the way you are in communities in music. It's really clear to see that you're just such a strong, positive force. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I know that when you began working in the UK, you were at Assault and Battery with Flood. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Amazing. I know Assault and Battery a little bit because I made an album there a few years ago, and the Moogs there are amazing.
What year were you there?
I was there 2016.
Wow. Yeah, I would have been there then.
Yeah.
Maybe not in the building, but no, definitely that's not that long ago.
No, I had an amazing time there, and it's just such a great space in the live room and really vibey and chill. Have you ever worked in studios where it's a little bit stark and overly, if the atmosphere is not kind of relaxed and groovy, it feels like it infiltrates the music?
Yeah, there's been a few studios over the years where you kind of walk in and everything's bright red, or all the surfaces feel really clean and you don't know where to put stuff, and it sort of feels like you can't kind of let loose and be creative. But yeah, definitely Battery has not got that atmosphere at all. So it feels like you can be incredibly free and creative in that room. Everything's sort of like timber tones and warm tones, and there's lots of gear everywhere, and lots of fun toys to play with. Not everything hidden away.
Yeah, that's true. Like the Moog room, and then also all the pedals, and it's just so cool to be in a space that feels creatively free, and then you can feel loose. And well, I like to feel a bit like I can relax and just check in. So cool. So we're doing this series of conversations with women in music because I realized how much I'm so inspired by other women, and to learn and listen and have conversations, I feel like we continue that motion of changing narrative, particularly for women and girls in music. And I'm sure you get asked this all the time, but how do you feel about how you would like things to change for women and girls in studios or in workspaces moving forward?
I got asked this recently. I don't really know. I mean, the changes that I'm noticing or have sort of been occurring over the last 5 years is how many more women there are, but also how much more supportive we are of each other, and how the community is expanding. And even if I've never worked with them, the interaction, like whether it be through social media and the sort of mutual support and respect has sort of grown exponentially. Because definitely when I started 15 years ago, that just didn't exist. I had no one like me to reach out to, and now I feel there's so many others that I can, like just go, hey, how's it going on Instagram? Say, what are you working on at the moment? Gosh, I'm working on this. I'm sort of tearing my hair. I don't know. The culture, I feel, has changed quite dramatically. And I feel a lot more supported and part of a kind of broader community that was a little bit different when I started 15 years ago.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
As far as what needs to change, I don't know. That's a tough question, because there's so many things about working in studios and working in the music industry that I'm so familiar with. And I guess that I've just adapted to, and perhaps kind of the kind of next generation of people coming through will have a sort of a better idea of what, because there is room now for more change, they'll have a better idea of what they really want. Whereas I sort of feel like I've settled into the couch.
Yeah, I really know what you mean. That's really promising and sounds great that over the years there's been more of a community for you as a producer and musician and engineer and mixer, because I know for me, I really rely on community. And I think the times where I've struggled in my music career or when I'm on tour with other artists is when I feel a lacking of community.
Yeah.
And it's really become clear to me over the years how important that value of community is. Can you share some experiences back in the day when you started out where there wasn't really that sense of community? What were your kind of tools of survival, or in what way did you kind of connect with a little bit more masculine vibes that can be in studios?
It's interesting because I think you don't really get to experience this sense of community when you're a runner or an assistant. It's a very isolating experience in itself, whether you're a guy or a girl. I think there's no one to reach out to. You've just got to suck it up and get on with it. But as I started to progress with engineering and even producing, I was very lucky because a lot of my mentors and the people that I've kind of grown up with through the industry have been so incredibly supportive and had really encouraged me to be myself, and they were sort of celebrating the fact that there was kind of a woman doing this job. So I felt like with those people that I already had kind of the support and sense of community, but there was still some, I can't sort of describe it, having, there's Olga and Marta, who I've sort of got to know, Olga and Marta, who I've got to know over the years. I kind of knew them. They'd sort of started a little bit later, but I got to know them. And just knowing that they were out there and working away, I don't know, it was kind of comforting.
Yeah.
But I can't really put my finger on it, because I think I still did have a great community, or I had a great support network within the sort of engineers and producers who I've grown up with. There was a lot of competition as well.
Really? Yeah. And competition among people who were also coming up and learning, or with people who were established at that time? Did you feel competition in all departments, or was there one particular place?
No, more, I think, competition amongst my peers. I don't know if it's like that anymore, but I definitely felt, there was sort of a little bit, oh, why did you get that job? How did you get that job?
Really? Yeah. Right. Yeah. I know what you mean, because some people, my sister and I sang with Leonard Cohen for a few years, and it would always be the first question, how did he choose you? And we always had a giggle about it. And yeah, it is an interesting question. I think people want to relate and understand so they can learn, but sometimes it comes out as questioning you somewhat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is one of the beautiful things, I think, in music, is whenever I come back to feeling like it's about the music and I feel humble in the process, I'm more at ease. And I think when I've got really excited or ambitious, sometimes I'm not really in. I always want to be in the place of the creativity, not in outside of that. So,
Yeah.
And the lifestyle in music, it definitely keeps you humble, I think. What's your take on how the lifestyle and what's expected and the timings of being in studio, how does that impact you?
Yeah, I mean, it's while the last year has been hard, it's kind of been great because I feel like the pressure has been lifted off a little bit. I feel like I've kind of been living in studios for like 15 years really, and not really having sort of much of a social life, or kind of having to schedule in a social life. So it can be sort of quite demanding, and not feeling like I have much time for myself. But I think with the last year, just sort of deadlines kind of depleting or disintegrating even,
Yeah.
I felt like I've had, I've been able to kind of space things out a bit and have more time to myself. Is that kind of what you were asking?
Yeah, definitely, because something I know what you mean. When you're in that time of being on a project or making an album, there's a whole level of demand, which is really exciting, but day after day, week after week, there isn't much space or time for self-care or going for a run every day or seeing your pals. So
No.
so that's really cool to hear that despite this time has been really challenging for so many people, it's been an opportunity for some space and
Yeah,
to chill out
I
there.
mean, it has. Funnily enough, it's been good for some of the year, and then sort of surprisingly exhausting because I think a lot of us sort of realised, well, the only thing there is to do is work. So
Right.
kind of getting a bit of burnout
Yeah.
inadvertently with thinking, well, no, actually we have loads of time because there's nothing else that we can do. But obviously, then that's become like the main focus with no kind of release.
Yeah. What have the rules meant for you at Assault and Battery? Have you been able to work in certain times when there hasn't been lockdown with masks at a distance, or how's that been for you?
I actually haven't recorded a lot. There's been a band, the Mysterines, who we've worked on and off with over the past year, and another project that I recorded at the end of last year. But the band had come over from Atlanta, and they came for a month before we did the project. No, 2 weeks before we did the project, I think. Whatever. Either way, they sort of had a comedy of errors where they had to self-isolate for 2 weeks, and then I think they had 2 weeks. Oh, that's right. Then they had 2 weeks off where they were able to explore London before we started the album. But they had a day. I had a day outside, and then suddenly London went into lockdown again. So they basically spent a month in their Airbnb, and then we spent a month in the studio. But we kind of took precautions and self-isolated prior to going into the studio. But I've been mixing for most of the year, which I've really enjoyed as well.
Yeah.
So like having a schedule and having a routine, being able to. My studio's 10 minutes away, so walking to work. Actually, it's a 40-minute walk, but it's been good for exercise.
Yeah, that's great.
So yeah, walking to and from work when I can, and not taking public transport and things like that. But because I'm on my own, I mean, self-isolation as a sound engineer, you know, recording engineer, you're quite familiar with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I said to a friend of mine the other day, lockdown's kind of like my normal life. Yeah. So I was reading that you started playing piano at the age of 4.
Yes.
And I know that you are recording and contributing musically to albums too. Is the musical side of your life still as important, or as your engineering, producing, mixing, or is it slightly taking a back seat, or do you see a time where you will be focused more on your music?
I mean, I never really considered myself a writer. I wrote songs before and stuff, and played in bands before I entered into the music industry. But I think once I was starting kind of learning the engineering side of the discipline, my kind of creativity or my playing or writing definitely took a back seat.
Right.
But having that kind of music understanding has helped amazingly, just in the way that I've been able to kind of communicate with artists and understand chords and chord progressions, and
Yeah.
and the more sort of projects that I've been doing recently, it has involved a lot more kind of writing and contribution to the writing process. But often, as a producer, I'm always kind of involved in breaking down songs and kind of analysing them and building them back up again. And so I guess having that musical understanding has helped. But occasionally, I mean, I've actually done a bit of songwriting in the last year too. That's another, having some space to and time to do that with some other artists has been really good.
Yeah, that's really cool. Sometimes I find if I have a bit of space and I don't feel like writing, I try and remind myself it's like the farmer with the field. Sometimes you're just turning the soil into itself. You're not actually growing anything, and that's okay because you're preparing the soil for when you might want to grow something.
Yeah.
May I ask about the women who've personally and or professionally inspired you?
I've been thinking about my mum a lot recently,
Yeah.
and just she's recently retired, but she's still she sings in a music group. She's on Sunday. She's just made I think it's for Children's Literature Day or something like that. She's just made a kind of whole tent worth full of felt books, and she's so incredibly creative. But I mean, ever since I remember, she has kind of she's always been doing so much and so much for other people, while also pursuing kind of her creative dreams and ideas, and satisfying kind of her own creative needs. But she's very strong. She doesn't take any bullshit.
Love that.
And I guess, like my grandmother, sort of kind. She's so. And she has been incredibly supportive of me over the years. She hasn't. Her expectations have never been that I will follow a particular path. She's only ever kind of wanted me to be happy. And I was just that, to me, that the way she has been incredibly inspiring to me. I don't know if that's cliche, but I probably wouldn't have said that 20 years ago, but I think the older I've got, the kind of closer we've got, and the more I've really started to understand her and appreciate her and her sense of humour, and just what a wonderful woman she is to so many people.
Yeah. It's amazing to come to that place. I've found, for me, as I've got older, I now can understand some of the things my parents were saying 15, 20 years ago. now I can relate a little bit more to that. It's really amazing that you have such a strong role model in your mum as well. And I love the way you described that your mum holds space for other people, yet she's clear with her own creative vision, which sounds like you as well for what you do. It's so cool. When you mentioned that you don't take any bullshit, and maybe your mum doesn't take any bullshit, what does that look like? Can you describe a scenario where you feel there's your bullshit-ometer is going off, and how do you deal with that?
It's more mum can give as good as she gets. And I think, you know, both my mum and I are quite sensitive people, but in the right context. So there's, you know, I guess we have sort of a high threshold and can take it, but definitely go, you know, this isn't cool, or, you know, just give it back, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know what I mean by that. I mean, I have some great anecdotes of where she hasn't taken any bullshit from any of my old boyfriends, that's for sure.
Oh, I love it. Brilliant. Brilliant. Flying the flag. I love it. Yeah.
I know.
It's something I struggle a little bit with. I've been learning the art of communication because it's everyone's human and everyone makes mistakes, but the art of witnessing other people who are in leadership roles, whether they're producing or their manager, that I always love to see someone leading with strength, but with compassion for everyone's mistakes or imperfections. And yeah, my community, I think, have to deal with a lot of mine. So what are some of the tools in your toolbox when you're in a session or in an environment where you feel uncertain about, maybe you don't feel this, but for me, I sometimes feel a bit uncertain about creative direction, or if you're in a scenario where there's a lot going on and balancing stress, could you share any tips that you've just developed in your toolbox?
Balancing stress. Yes. I mean, I do get stressed, but it's more, I guess sometimes get frustrated that if something isn't coming together in the way that I would like to, or I need to find solutions. I'll either kind of just walk away for a minute, or, you know, it's time to kind of leave the studio, or I'll really hunt and dig for that solution. And you won't, you can talk at me or say anything to me and I'm not going to be listening. I'm going to be trying to find a solution. I sort of, I can become quite blinkered. But yeah, dealing with stress is hard. I mean, just like on a really practical level, exercise has kind of helped me a lot in doing things like yoga, or even just taking an hour for myself every day. For years I didn't, you know, I'd come home from the studio, eat something, go to bed, get up, get dressed, go to the studio again. And now, I find it gives me so much more energy and a greater ability to kind of cope with whatever the day throws at me, when I just kind of, if I go to yoga or if I walk around the park or something before the studio. I mean, definitely people who work with me know that I'm in a much, much better mood. But things tend to not, I mean, things like pressure and stuff I kind of really thrive on, so I don't necessarily get stressed. I sort of enjoy little challenges and embrace them. Things that will stress me out are if something, definitely if a song isn't coming together or a performance isn't coming together, or there's something that doesn't feel right, but I can't put my finger on it. That stresses me out. But I need to sort of step away and kind of, take a moment. But I mean, I get stressed by emails.
Oh, I'm with you on that one.
Correspondence.
Yeah, because I think when you're in a creative space, it's harder to move in a logical, figuring out times and emails. And I think the creative process is so all wholeheartedly filling. That, yeah, I relate to that too. It's not so easy to figure the email stuff. I was reading that on Such Pretty Forks in the Road, and listening as well, that you did do some synths and programming and string arranging on the album. What was that like for you? Did Alanis or anyone in the team have a strong idea for that, or were you given free rein there?
We were given free rein. I mean, Alanis was so brilliant, and especially in the songs that she chose for me to do. But I was essentially in my studio in London, and we were communicating. She was in America, and we were sort of communicating by text and phone. And I'd be sort of trying out ideas and doing a lot of basically playing with. I was sent piano and vocals basically, and I kind of would just build up the tracks one by one. We started off with a song called Pedestal, which is just, I mean, it's so stunning. And I started with like a little bit of sound design and kind of processing the existing piano and her vocals a little bit. And then there was certain notes and there was like a drum groove or something that happens at the end. But yeah, I mean, initially quite daunting because I'd never worked that way before. I'm always with artists in the room. But her communication was great in terms of how she was reacting to what I was sending her, and it then sort of inspired me. I was then able to kind of react to her reaction, and from that we sort of pushed forward. And as far as the string arrangements, the songs themselves lent themselves to having beautiful strings on. So both myself and Alex Hope, the other producer, had independently come up with string ideas or parts that would then end up being string parts. And when we were like, we're going to record a full string orchestra, we were like, this is so exciting. So yeah, so myself and Mike and Alex kind of worked on Mike Farrell worked on he helped us with the sort of actually arranging it for musicians to read. But they started off. I just was using synth strings to start off with, or
to mock it up.
Yeah. But they were kind of, the parts kind of existed in the songs anyway, and some of them we picked up on guitar parts that we played, or vocal harmonies, or you know, things like that, little counter rhythm things. But it was such a wonderful experience. Mike was like, "Why don't you go in there and conduct?" And I was like, "No, you go and do that."
Wow, that must have been so amazing to be there though and hear.
Yeah. Oh, it was.
It's such a great record, Catherine. I love it, and
really? Thank you.
Yeah, I love it so much, and I love what you, Alex, and Alanis did, and the whole team. It feels like such a strong piece of work. It's so present, and it's so of this time, and yet it's so Alanis. So it's so inspiring to hear. Because whenever I hear an artist and they sound very them, I know that it's been a great team.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, Alanis she was so clear and very strong and about her kind of vision and what she wanted. So yeah, I mean, I respect her so much. What a voice!
What a voice!
Yeah, the lyrics are so incredible as well.
Oh,
so brave.
So brave. I think she's one of the artists that has most inspired me in my life, because I love her, the way she sings it just and writes, it comes straight into the heart. Yeah, it takes a very strong leader to make a great album like that, though it is the whole team, and so she's a great leader because she picked a great team as well. So cool. Can I ask a little bit about working with St. Vincent and how that process unfolded for you with her?
I'd gone to LA for a road trip with a friend, and I had a meeting with a record label, and they were like, "Do you want to have a go at mixing St. Vincent?" And I was like, "God, yeah." So I went up to her house and met her, and there was one specific song she wanted to start me to start with, which was a song called "Fear the Future," which was brilliant. And we were kind of having a conversation about what it was and what it needed to be. I mean, all the ingredients were there. It was just kind of like what we were talking about, the kind of feeling, and I was like, it's like Nine Inch Nails meets indie Kylie Minogue. She's like, oh my God, that's it. So
wow.
that was kind of the brief for it, and it was so much, obviously nerve-wracking, but so much fun to do. And then I was in a studio in LA, which the label had sort of put me in. I'd never worked there before, and I think on the first day I'd got the mix like 99% there. I took it home to the hotel, and I think there was one thing that I wanted to change, and I went back in the next day. I actually don't think the label and Annie know this, but the guys at the studio had pulled my mix down and not recalled it because they didn't know that they didn't think I was coming back. I don't think they understood. I don't know. So I had to scramble without any recall sheets or anything to try and match the mix.
Whoa.
Still, I mean, it was fine because then Annie had like some changes that she wanted to make. So the mix wouldn't have ever been the same anyway. There was something about that other mix. Maybe I should say that, but I did get it really. I did sort of get it super close in the end.
Yeah. And
then there was Los Angeles, or is that what the song's called? Los Angeles. I can't remember. I've suddenly got a blank.
I can't remember either.
And Mass Seduction.
Yeah.
And some of the songs I also mixed back in London. It was sort of such a crazy experience because I was in LA. It was around the 4th of July. I went to some crazy Hollywood Hills party. I felt like I was in a David Lynch film for most of that experience. And then I think I was finishing a mix. We had to hire an engineer to stem it so that I could catch a plane to London. I flew back to London, left the airport, went straight to the studio and started mixing the next track because I think there was like a ridiculous deadline or something, and I had to. I was so jet lagged, and I had the amazing Caesar Edmonds to help. And I think, I might have had to do 2 tracks in a day or something. But yeah, that was madness.
Wow.
When I look back on those experiences, I sort of can't believe I did it. And not only did that, but did it somehow successfully where everyone kind of liked the outcome. And then that Mass Seduction won a Grammy. I mean, that kind of blew me away as well.
It's amazing. It's incredible. Yeah, that sounds like so LA, the 4th of July David Lynch party. Yeah, it's so great. It's brilliant.
But Annie was I mean, I really like her, and I think she's brilliant. Such a great songwriter and producer and musician, and she's also another one who's kind of really badass and really clear about what she wants and her ideas. Yeah,
that's awesome. How about PJ Harvey? Is she always flying the flag, do you feel?
Yeah, again, another one who is very clear about who she is and what she wants. And when I worked with her, I had obviously sort of known of her, and I had known some of her music growing up. But I was more in awe of her at the end of the record than at the start. Just getting to know her and watching her and watching her perform. There was a song called, Oh gosh, I'm having such mental blanks about song titles right now. It's Friday afternoon, and I'm
Yeah.
looking at two screens, like
Hey,
trying to figure out who to look, which way to
you're
look.
winning.
Um, but yeah, there was one song that she performed on the piano, and the way the studio was set up was we were in a kind of a converted barn. This is actually just in Kilburn up the road, but it was an old converted dairy. This is Flood's old studio, with tall ceilings. And then there was another little side room, but there was no glass. It was just kind of like a ad hoc added on room that we'd drilled a hole through and, you know, sent some XLR mic cables through. So we're listening, monitoring in the big room, and she's playing piano and singing in the room next door. And we couldn't see each other, but all of us were, well, she'd sort of broken down at the end of the performance. I was crying, and Flood's sort of looking at me, just going, "Don't cry, don't, like, hold your shit together," kind of thing. Because we can't, you know, there was stuff that we needed to do, but it was just not even seeing her. It was literally what was coming through the speakers. How powerful that is. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I do. I think that's one of the main reasons why anyone would get into this game. It's for that feeling.
Yeah.
It's just, it feels like you're at the core of some kind of purity or some kind of bliss. It's incredible. How amazing to witness that.
That's funny. I haven't thought about that for a while, and I guess it's definitely something that I strive for now, is capturing a feeling that is that palpable, that isn't related to anything visual, but it's whatever's coming through the speakers gives you a feeling kind of so intense.
Yeah. What do you think that feeling is?
Well, it can be any feeling. I mean, it can be one of elation and joy and make you want to get up and dance, and where you get sort of butterflies in your tummy and you're like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Or something that just, you know, that rips your heart apart, and you're like, oh my God, I relate to this so much, and, you know, how is this speaking to me so much? And yeah, and then you fall apart. I tend not to cry as much in the studio anymore, unless it's because the music's speaking to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Have there been times where you've witnessed other women and they've dealt with a situation in a certain way and you've thought, oh, that gives me an idea? I mean, I know I do this sometimes. If I've witnessed my sister deal with a situation with a lot of grace, or with another fellow artist, I often think, wow, that's something I'll remember, that the way they've coped with it or dealt with it or communicated what they want is in a way that brings people along versus pushes people away.
Have I seen that? Have I witnessed that?
Yeah. And has it inspired you?
I actually, in the studio.
Yeah.
I honestly don't think I have. And I'm sure no one, I wonder if anyone would describe me as dealing with anything with any particular level of grace. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of female artists that I have worked with, I guess.
Yeah.
I have to think about this one.
Yeah, have a think. Have a think.
I mean, like, I was just thinking about the Big Moon Girls and how they actually interact with each other and how classy that it is. But it was never, we were never sort of in a situation where we were dealing with something tricky that needed to be, no, there was no sort of difficult situation. I genuinely can't think of a difficult, like a particularly confronting or difficult situation that's needed to be dealt with.
That's so wonderful to hear that. I feel like I have quite a lot of them when I'm in the studio. Not in a way of challenges, but more like, opportunities to understand something in a different way, or find a way through, or like, yeah.
Can't think.
It's good. It's great. I'm high-fiving from afar across the computer and the phone. I love it. How do you feel now that there are more women in the studio or in whichever workspace you're in? How do you feel now that there are more women
Love it.
around?
Love it.
Love it.
Love it.
In
Yeah.
what? Why? Why is that?
Oh, because it's just so much cooler that there's more kind of variety, isn't there? I don't know.
Yeah. Yes.
I just, I mean, I say this a lot, but I still really believe it. You know, we're in a creative industry, so, you know, there should be so many different perspectives on what we're creating and contributing to. And yeah, so I think it's really cool. Also, it makes kind of award ceremonies and nerdy engineering social gatherings much more fun when I can hang out with the gals.
Yeah, I loves it. Loves it.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I had a chat with Laura Marling years ago about this and there not being that many women, and we were saying how when we had sort of been growing up in the industry, that we felt kind of very victimized by other women, or there was too much competition amongst other women. But we had felt like the culture was shifting. This is what I was talking about earlier. The culture was shifting into kind of women supporting other women, and she called it goddess worship, which that's totally stuck with me since that moment, because I'm sure I, you know, being sort of overly ambitious and competitive, had a part, you know, there might have been a part of me that felt a little bit protective of the space that I had built for myself, and didn't necessarily want someone like me entering into that space. So it really made me kind of think and want to kind of be more conscious of that, or to see if I was doing that, or being the person, or being the type of woman who I had sort of been scared of, you know, when I had sort of started out. I did not want to be that person at all. So yeah, it definitely made me a lot more kind of conscious of the way I was around other women. But then when I guess when I became sort of a lot more confident in what I was doing and comfortable in myself, because, you know, there's definitely been kind of a lot of changes and growth throughout the years as I've sort of grown up, you know, working in the music industry. Yeah, I think I was just absolutely welcomed and needed and wanted to know other women like me, I guess.
Yeah. And do you feel that there's opportunity for women to come up? Like, say, for example, when you began, do you think that there is a little bit more opportunity for women to carve a niche like you have?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know a lot of other producers are wanting to work with female engineers, but also the girl, the women who are working in the industry now. I mean, it does take a certain type of personality. You have to be you know, there's a lot of crap that you have to take, and I'm not talking about personal crap that you have to deal with or attacks personally on you, but there's a lot of things that you have to deal with in these roles. So what was I saying? I was sort of thinking about how there are a lot of producers who are wanting to use to use other women. Sorry, I'm like just totally zoned out. I've had like 3 thoughts about all of this, and I need to consolidate them into one.
No, but that is so cool, because I think that's one of the strengths of women and women in creativity, that we can have 3 thoughts going at the same time. And when I collaborate with other women, I notice that there's more capacity. There's a lot going on, and I'm not saying there's a lot going on for men too, but there's this other essence of empathy, compassion, presence that I really cherish. And so it's a wonderful plus whenever collaborating with women. What's your take? I know we're coming to the end of our time here. If I can sneak a couple more questions in with you. I wish this would last forever, but I know good things have to come to a close. What's your take on the low end in modern records, or the fact that a lot of albums are being played through a telephone or a computer? What's the compromise? What's your feeling on that?
It's not something that I've thought about. I've noticed that low mids are not that fashionable, whereas to me, I love like low mid range. I mean, look, I don't know, but this is sort of my interpretation. But I mean, I love low mids because they're that's where sort of all the groove information and feeling information in a voice is. I find like kind of the sort of guttural chestiness of a voice is. I mean, I'm such a culprit of listening to stuff on my phone. I sometimes listen to my mixes on my phone just to see if anything weird stands out. But I mean, I actually don't have speakers at home that are particularly bassy. So I mean, I wouldn't notice. I don't know if I wouldn't notice it, but extreme low end, I don't know. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense, though, that you're playing it on your phone, because if a huge percentage of people out in the world are playing it on their phone, it's great that you've heard it in that space. And
well, it's not to check the kind of the fidelity of it. It's a way, because they're actually so shit. You know, it will highlight stuff. Like if I feel comfortable listening to it on my phone, I know kind of everything sits in the right place. Whereas it's a great way, if like, oh my God, that guitar is way too loud in that moment, or the vocal isn't loud enough. It's a great way for me to kind of hear how the balance kind of, the stuff that is annoying will poke out. That's kind of, but obviously I'm like listening on loads of other speakers. Like the low end isn't too much, or too overbearing, or you know, it sort of feels relatively balanced.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. When I've been in LA and I jump into a rental car, it's one of my favorite places in a shit rental car to hear over those speakers. I don't know, I love the surround sound and getting in it, in that environment. Can I ask you about a day that you look back on with joy?
That's a good question. Can it be recent?
Whenever you want.
I had a day off recently, and I haven't cooked in a long time because I've sort of been so frantically busy. And I really fancied my mum's spaghetti bolognese, but I'd been thinking about it for like 2 weeks. But I didn't want the spaghetti. I just wanted the bolognese sauce. So I finally bought some mince on the weekend, and I got the recipe from Mum, but I sort of appropriated and added like some vegetables and stuff, and it tasted so delicious, and it was like it kind of reminded me of home. So that's that. It was a very joyous day because I felt like I was not only successful in achieving something like that wasn't music related. I was also doing something for myself, but it was really yummy.
Oh, I love yummy. I love all the threefold trident of bliss. Question: to cheese or not to cheese with bolognese?
To what?
To cheese. To add cheese or not add cheese?
Oh
I'm grating over here.
I added so much cheese.
Great. Yay. I love the cheese.
Yeah.
I'm all about the cheese. What's your recent favorite song or piece of music or something creative that you keep coming back to that draws you in?
That is also a good question. I often come back to the Fever Ray album. Do you know Fever Ray?
No.
It's, I can't look at my phone. It's the artist from The Knife, the singer from The Knife. It's her project, but I think it's like from 2005 or 2004, that album.
Cool.
And that's often, sort of off and on throughout the years, it's something that I kind of just put on and listen to as almost a palate cleanser, but it's all, there's something so incredibly I don't know, there's like the textures in it and the feeling and the mood are so tangible, but it's also something really nice that I can kind of put on in the background as well. And sometimes I like listen to it for references. I think there was an Alana song that I used it as a reference. Not as a direct, not to be derivative, but just there was some like little sonic textures in there that I kind of wanted to replicate. Yeah.
That's so cool. I'm going to check it out. And what are you looking forward to moving forward?
What are you looking forward to?
Oh, it's such a good question. Well, I think getting my album out, I have a new album called Wild Medicine that I've nearly finished, and 3 years, and it's been amazing, and I'm really ready. I'm ready for it to come out. So that's probably what I'm looking forward to. How about you?
I'm looking forward to be able to fly home to see my family in Australia.
Yep.
But before that, I'm looking forward to, being able to go and see my friends again, do other things, get back into the studio with more people, not having to have COVID tests all the time. I mean, lots of things. But I'm also looking forward to the weekend.
Yeah. The only good thing about the COVID test that I found is that it doesn't go in any other orifice before it goes in there. But that's the only other thing. I really don't enjoy it. It's not it's not so enjoyable. Thank you so much for joining today. And
thank you for having me.
It's been so brilliant, and I'm just in such admiration of you and your creativity and your process. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you, is there a way that they can reach out on Facebook or Instagram? What's the best way for folks to reach out?
On Instagram, and my manager's details are on like the top,
Great.
The top bit of, I don't know what you call it on Instagram. What's
the
that
little linkage?
No, it's not. They're not even linked. It's just in like the bio section. Yeah.
Bio. Great. Yeah. Okay, that's really cool. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Thanks, Hattie.
I think I'm gonna be making bolognese this weekend now. You got me going for it. Yeah, thank you, and very best of luck for your trip back to Australia sometime soon.
Thank you so much, and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. Cheers. Bye.